We have reached the halfway point into the NBA season. Now that'd be a great idea to make a video on the top 5 most disappointing team in the NBA this season. This would be a list of teams that I believe that have not reached their full potential in this NBA season. Coming in at the number 5th position on my list, I got the likes of the Boston Celtics, who are currently ranked number 10 in the Eastern Conference. And if the NBA season was supposed to end today, they would be in the play-in tournament. They have a record of 23 wins and 22 losses. At home, they're doing very well. They have a record of 15-8, but away, they're absolutely trash. They have a record of 8 wins and 14 losses. Against the division, they're absolutely horrible. 5 wins and 6 losses. But against the Eastern Conference, they have a decent record, 16 wins and 12 losses. On the offensive side of the game, they've scored roughly 107.6 points and have allowed on the defensive side the other team to score roughly 105.6 with a difference of 1.9. Let's start with the defensive side of the game first. On the defensive side of the game, the Boston Celtics have been great. They're ranked number 7 when it comes to the opposition scoring. And all of the 32 teams, they're ranked number 7. And they have great defensive players. We cannot deny that. They got the likes of Jason Tatum, who's long, who's lengthy, who's good at getting blocks, who's good at staying with the defenders up front with the ball. You got the likes of Jaylen Brown, who can guard anyone that plays the shooting guard position. You got Marcus Smart, obviously, who's a rough and dog type of player, who's going to go for every single ball, who's going to flop every time he gets hit. He's going to take charges. On the defensive side of the game, they have been fantastic. They're ranked number 7, as I already mentioned, when it comes to opposition scoring. But offensive, oh my lord, they have been horrible. And I mean horrible when it comes to the offensive side of the game. They're ranked number 19 when it comes to scoring on the offensive side of the game. They're ranked number 19. When you watch them play on national TV, or even if you watch them streaming, they have been horrible on the offensive side of the game. It looks like they have no clue what they're doing. It's literally Jason Tatum brings the ball up and he makes the play for himself and he shoots and he gets a bucket. Next play up is Jaylen Brown's turn and he takes the ball up and he shoots and he scores. The offensive side of the game is literally Jason Tatum gets the first chance, he goes and he scores. The second turn is Jaylen Brown's turn, and he goes and he scores. It's literally Jason Brown, Jason Tatum, Jason Tatum, Jason Brown. They literally take turns on the offensive side of the game, and no one else does anything besides stand there and watch both of those two players go and get buckets. There's no ball movement. Nobody knows what they're doing. They're just stagnant. They're just standing there waiting for the ball. Maybe they're going to get the ball. Maybe Jason Tatum's going to have one of those games where he takes 50 shots. That's literally their offense. Their offense is, it's my turn with Jason Tatum, then it's my turn with Jaylen Brown. No one else gets the ball. There's no ball movement. It's just both those players going and getting to the bucket. And this Boston Celtic team is living off of their past history. Not the past history of the great Bill Russell, who won 13 NBA trophies. No. Not the past of the great Larry Bird. No. Not those great histories. They're living off the history of this team, of these young core players that they have, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, making it to the Eastern Conference Finals against the likes of LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers and taking them to a Game 7. This is literally what they're living off of. You know, when they were kids, when they had that good run, when they beat Philly, they beat the dog shit out of Philly, and they made it to the Eastern Conference Final, and they went against the likes of LeBron James. But if you looked at that Cleveland Cavaliers team, you'll know they were an awful team. That was the worst team that LeBron James was on after he returned to the Cleveland Cavaliers. There was no Kyrie Irving because he got traded. Kevin Love was a shell of himself, and everyone else that team was just role players, and it was literally LeBron James against these kids. And they played well. Let's not take anything away from them. They played well. Jason Tatum was playing really well. Jaylen Brown played out of his mind as well. Marcus Smart was playing great on the defensive side. And they had dog type of players. They had Marcus Morris and they had many other players. And they played out of their mind. And we thought we had something there, right? We all thought we had something great there. We thought Boston Celtics, if these young core players develop, this team is going to be the best team in the NBA. This team is going to take over the East for the next 20 years. They're going to take over the East. No one will be able to defeat them. This is going to be a franchise team. And even their players, even like the likes of Jaylen Brown, came and did an interview with the likes of Taylor Rock. And he said in the interview, I think we're going to win like 7 trophies for the next 10 years. He literally came on there and he was like, yeah, I expect us to win 7 trophies for the next 10 years. We're going to be a franchise team. This is going to be a dynasty here in the Boston Celtics. That's what Jaylen Brown said in an interview. And everyone was on and they were like, yo, this team is great. Jason Tatum is going to be the next Kobe Bryant. Jaylen Brown is going to be the best two-way player we have in the game. This is going to be the best team in the NBA. And every single season after that run they had, they've only, in the Eastern Conference, the best that they have done is get to the number 3 position. They've literally gone from 3 to 6 for the past couple of years, and they've been bounced in round 1, they've been bounced in round 2, and they have not lived up to their full potential. And this season, they have just been absolutely trash. They've been absolutely trash. And the reason I think they've been a disappointment is that they're not a well-constructed team. They're not. They're a very awful constructed team. They have great young talents. Jason Tatum is a good young player. Jaylen Brown, good young player. But the problem is they don't have a good center. They don't have a guy in the paint who can go and get easy buckets. So on the offensive side of the game, when you watch them play, it's literally Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown taking tough shots after tough shots, hogging the ball, making buckets. But it's literally that's their offense. Their offense is Jason Tatum takes a tough, long 2-pointer and he makes it. Jaylen Brown takes a long 3-pointer and he makes it. And it's like, it's not fun to watch. You can clearly tell all the other players on the offensive side are just waiting if they're going to get the ball or not, and they don't know what to do. So what their potential is and what they have done, it's a disappointment. It's a disappointment. And right now, we don't even know if they're going to make it to the play-in because we still have roughly 40 games remaining in the NBA season, and they might even get kicked out of the play-in tournament and not make the playoffs. So I think they can easily fix that team too. I think you have great core to build around. You have the likes of Jaylen Brown, you have the likes of Jason Tatum. Build around them. You can easily do it. What you need to do is get a good big man. Get someone in the middle. When you made that big run in the Eastern Conference, it was just not only the young core. You had the likes of Al Horford, who was playing in the center position, who was dominating in the center position. He was going up against Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid had an awful series. He was awful in the paint. He could not get easy buckets in the paint, Joel Embiid. He was struggling. He was even getting into foul troubles. He was even getting teed up because he could not stay up with Al Horford. Al Horford was guarding him like no tomorrow, and he was getting easy buckets in the paint. Al Horford was against other big centers because he knows how to play the center position. He was positioning up, he was getting the easy 2 buckets, and that's what they need to do. They need to keep Jason Tatum, keep Jaylen Brown, and get a guy who's a dominant center in the draft or even in the free agency and use them. This would be a great team to build up around. But right now, from what we had from years ago, they have been a disappointment. They have. Last couple of years, as I already said, they were like what? The highest they've gone in the Eastern Conference is number 3. And they've been wrong, and they've been kicked out of the playoffs in round number 1, round number 2. Absolutely disappointment. And this season, again, they might not even make it to the playoffs, might not even make it into the play-in tournament if they keep playing this way. So they come number 5th on my list of the most disappointing team in the NBA this season. Now, let's come to the number 4th position on my list. I got the likes of the New York Knicks, who are currently in the 11th position in the Eastern Conference. They have a record of 22 wins and 23 losses. At home, they've been absolutely trash, absolutely abysmal. They have a record of 11 wins and 13 losses. Away, they're pretty decent, I would say. 11 wins and 10 losses only. Against the division, again, they've been horrible. 4 wins only and 6 losses. Against the Eastern Conference, horrible again. 14 wins and 16 losses. On the offensive side of the game, they've roughly scored 104.3 points per game, and they've let the opposition score on them roughly 104.6, with a difference of negative 0.3. Let's start with the defensive side of the game. The New York Knicks have been great on the defensive side of the game because, let's be real, they've got a coach who's the best defensive mind we have in the game. They got the likes of Tom Thibodeau, and he's got the defense playing up to an elite level, currently ranked number 5th when it comes to opposition scoring. And they've played great on the defense. They got dog mentality, they chase after every single ball, they're going to guard their player one-on-one, and they're going to play a great scheme. And Tom Thibodeau, let's talk about Tom Thibodeau for a second when it comes to the defensive side of the game. That's how he got into the NBA. He got into the NBA because he was known as this tough, defensive-minded guy. When he got to the Boston Celtics, you know how the Boston Celtics won that championship in 2008? It was not because of Doc Rivers having this great coaching mindset. No, it was because he had one of the best defenses in the game. And the reason they were so good on the defensive side is because they had Tom Thibodeau, who was great at coming up with schemes, who was great at getting the defense ready, who was great at getting the defense pumped up. So you had Tom Thibodeau, who was a great defensive mind in the game, and he's coaching the New York Knicks really very, very, very well. When it comes to the defensive side, that's what they rank number 5th. But when it comes to the offensive side, they are ranked number 27 out of 32 teams in the NBA when it comes to the offensive side of the game. 104.3 is 27th in the NBA in scoring. They have been absolutely trash when it comes to the offensive side of the game. And if you watch them, you will not be surprised. Their offensive game is literally this. R.J. Barrett brings the ball up. Derrick Rose brings the ball up. Kemba Walker brings the ball up. And you're thinking, oh, you know what? Those 3 players can maybe get their own shot, maybe set up a team, maybe tell players where to go because they're point guards. No, this is what their offense is. So they bring the ball up. They wait for Julius Randle to get settled. Take his defense, back his defense up, get settled. This is literally their offense. They wait for Julius Randle to get set up. So that's about 2-3 seconds that gets taken off the clock. Then they give the ball to Julius Randle, and they wait for him to do something great. They wait for him to take his own shot or pass the ball away. And the 4 players, while Julius Randle has the ball, are literally just stagnant. They just stand there and wait and watch. They literally have a first-class ticket to watching Julius Randle play. They do nothing. They don't move around. No one's moving. Everyone is literally just standing in the corner and just watching Julius Randle take his defender on, and maybe he's going to pass the ball to them, but most likely he's going to go and try to take a tough 2-pointer or even go to the hoop. That's literally the offense, is give the ball to Julius Randle and watch him go to work. That's why they've been horrible. That's why they've lost a lot of matches. A lot of matches they have been in winning situations, but in the 4th quarter they have lost the match. Why? Because they're way too reliant on Julius Randle. Don't get me wrong, Julius Randle is a great player. He's an all-star type player, but you cannot rely on him to win every single match. And when it comes down to the 4th quarter, what they're doing and why they're losing leads, why they're losing matches, is that they're literally just giving the ball off to Julius Randle, backing off, and watching him go to work in the clutch situations. And I'm sorry, he's not going to make those tough shots. He can't. And you've seen him clearly break. And he's got into fights with the New York Knicks fans. He has. You can clearly see when he scored buckets, when he had that game on NBA TNT, he was giving them thumbs down because he was getting booed by the New York Knicks fans because they were sick and tired of this team losing. And the reason they're playing so horrible on the offensive side of the game, I hate to say it, is they're way too reliant on Julius Randle. When the Spurs had the likes of Tim Duncan, the greatest power forward to play this game, when the Lakers had Kareem, when the Lakers had Shaq, 2 of the best centers to play this game, when the Houston Rockets had Hakeem, they were not relying on them in the 4th quarter. They weren't like, Hakeem, take the ball and go to the post and take a tough 2-pointer and win us this game. It was never that way. When San Antonio had Tim Duncan, they were like, give the ball to Tim Duncan in the post and watch him go to work. They played like a team. They had Manu Ginobili taking good 3-pointers and making clutch shots. They had the likes of Tony Parker hitting 2 fadeaways and winning the matches. They weren't just relying on the big man, because you know that big man will not make you win matches. But what the New York Knicks is doing, they're just giving the ball off to Julius Randle and watching him go to work. And he's a great player. He's an all-star player, but he can't do it all by himself. So the likes of Kemba Walker, the likes of Derrick Rose, R.J. Barrett should be the ones that should be getting the ball in the 4th quarter and taking the game on. They should be the one that should be setting up the offense because they're point guards. They should be telling players where to go. They should be telling R.J. Bullock to go side in the corner. They should be telling Obi Toppin to go in the paint. They should be the one leading the charge in the clutch, especially Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose should be the one that should be getting the ball for the New York Knicks when he's healthy in the clutch situations. It should not be Julius Randle. I'm sorry. He should not be getting the ball in the clutch. And that's what their offense has been horrible, and that's led to them losing many leads and losing a lot of matches. That's why they've been horrible on the offensive side. So last year, let's talk about last year. New York Knicks, they made it to the playoffs. Why did they make it to the playoffs? Because they had a dog mentality. They had a dog mentality. Everyone on their team played like an underdog. Everyone on the team played like an underdog. They wanted it. On the defensive side, they were diving for balls. They were blocking shots. And on the offense side, everyone was trying. Everyone was going to the hoop. The ball was moving around. And they had that dog mentality. They did not care who was standing in front of them. Yeah, they got kicked out of the first round. But they were still trying. They were giving all they had on the offensive side. You had the likes of R.J. Barrett taking the ball to the hoop. You had the likes of Julius Randle taking the ball to the hoop. You had other players on the team that got to touch the ball and do something with it. And in the offseason, they got Kemba Walker. And I thought that was a great trade for Kemba. Kemba is a great pickup for the New York Knicks. He's gonna change their life. Now they're not going to be too reliant on Julius Randle or Derrick Rose. And if Derrick Rose gets hurt, guess what? You got Kemba Walker. But Kemba Walker has not looked like the same player that was in Boston or that was in Charlotte. He looks on the other side of 30. He looks way too old. He does not have the speed that he used to have. He's had way too many injuries. And he's been in the doghouse with Tom Thibodeau. Because Tom Thibodeau, as I already mentioned, is a defensive side of the coach, and Kemba Walker is not a great defensive player, and that's led to Kemba Walker being benched, being taken out of the starting position. But he's still being a grown man. He's still been a professional, and he's there for the team. He's supporting them. But them getting Kemba Walker has been a disappointment. He has not lived up to the potential that we thought we would see. I thought that Julius Randle and Kemba Walker would have a good relationship. You literally have Kemba Walker taking the ball in the clutch, making clutch shots. You have Julius Randle in the paint, getting easy buckets, and they will have a good free-flowing offense where they can give the ball to Derrick Rose. Then Derrick Rose can pass the ball off to Julius Randle, who can get the ball to R.J. Bullock, who can get Obi Toppin in the game, who can get the likes of R.J. Barrett taking good shots. But what's happening now, it's literally give the ball to Julius Randle and watch him go and work. That's why they've been horrible, and they might even not make it to the playoffs. They've been a disappointment. I thought with Kemba Walker, they would take the next step. They would have a first-round win. That's what I thought. And let's be real, the NBA needs the Knicks to be good. Last year, that was fun to watch. Watching all their fans in the stand, how loud that stadium was. That's the mecca of basketball. The Knicks need to be good for the NBA to be good. When the Knicks are good, the NBA is good. So Knicks, get good, because we need to be good again. And that's why they're my disappointment. That's why they're coming in at number 4th. Easily. They're coming in at number 4th. Now, let's move to the number 3rd position on my list. Coming in at the number 3rd position, I got the Portland Trail Blazers, who are currently in the number 10th position in the Western Conference of the NBA. And if the season was supposed to end today, they would be in the play-in game tournament. They have a record of 18 wins and 25 losses. At home, they've been pretty decent with a record of 14 wins and 11 losses. But away from home, they've been absolutely trash. They have a record of 4 wins only and 14 losses. They've been one of the worst away teams we have in the NBA. And against their own division, they've been trash again. Only 1 win and 5 losses. And against other Western Conference teams, they should be at the bottom. They should be at the bottom with the record that they have with only 8 wins and 19 losses. Now, let's talk about the offensive side of the game. On the offensive side of the game, they averaged roughly 108.7 points per game, while on the defensive side of the game, they're allowing other teams to score roughly 112.5 points per game on them every single game, and that gives them a difference of negative 3.8. They've been absolutely awful. Let's start with the defensive side of the game. When it comes to opposition scoring, they're ranked number 26 in the NBA. You know how many teams there are in the NBA? Only 30 teams. They are awful when it comes to the defensive side of the game. When you watch them play, they cannot stop anyone. I mean, anyone. Anyone can go and get a bucket on the Portland Trail Blazers. If you're struggling, if you're having a bad stretch, go play the Portland Trail Blazers and snap your bad games that you're having. Easily. If you're having a bad streak, right? If you're a rookie and you're like, I'm only getting 2 points, 5 points, 8 points, I'm struggling, go play against the Portland Trail Blazers and you will drop 30 points. Anyone can give them a bucket. I can go and play in the NBA. I'm only 5'6", and I can bet you that I can get 10 buckets on the Portland Trail Blazers. They're that awful on the defensive side of the game. If you look at the superstar players that they have and star players, they got Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard is a top 5 point guard. You got CJ McCollum, a great shooting guard in the NBA. You got Yusuf Nurkic, a great center. When you talk about them, you always talk about the offensive side of the game. You always talk about how, Damian can go get buckets. It's Dame time. He's going to win you series because he's going to make shots after shots. When you talk about CJ McCollum, you're like, CJ McCollum is a great star player to Damian Lillard. He's going to take shots. He's going to make big shots. But you don't talk about them when it comes to the defensive side of the game. You don't go like, how? You see that game by Damian Lillard? Locked down Steph Curry. Steph Curry only had 10 points on Damian Lillard. He could not get a bucket because Dame was playing that good of a defense. You don't talk about that. Why? Because they're not known for the defense. You ever talk about how CJ McCollum, he locked down Klay Thompson. Yeah, Klay Thompson could not get a bucket on CJ McCollum because CJ McCollum was on his ass. You don't hear about those things. You don't hear about Jusuf Nurkic blocking people at the rim, because they don't play defense. Every single time we talk about Portland Trailblazers, we're like, if they want to win, they have to outscore the opponent. Damian Lillard has to go for 60 and they will win games. So it's unstable. They don't play defense and they currently rank number 26. And I mean this, anyone can go get a bucket on the Portland Trailblazers. They're that bad when it comes to the defensive side of the game. And offensive side, they've scored roughly 108.7 points per game. And you expect with the likes of Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, their offense will be top 10 in the team and then in the league, in the NBA. No, they're ranked 14 on the offensive side of the game. So both their offense has been average and their defense has just been trash. So they're an awful team. They're an awful team. And at the start of the season, there was a lot of noise that was coming out of Portland. There was. We had Damian come out and talk about how he was not liking the way the team was moving forward. He was not liking the coaching decisions that were being made. He was not liking just the way the team was moving forward, and he wanted to move. He was not happy with the decisions that were being made by the Portland Trailblazers. He was not happy before the season started. And you heard a lot of noises come out, a lot of controversies come out with the hiring of Chauncey Billups. His past was being brought up because he had a lot of rape cases, and that was being brought up by the media, and a lot of fans that are part of the Portland Trailblazers were upset. Why are we hiring a guy who has a rape case? And you heard a lot of noises. You heard about trade rumors, and a lot of people that are fans of Damian Lillard. I want Damian Lillard to go to another team so we can actually see his full potential. We can see him actually get a ring because we think he's that great. We saw a lot of noises come out about the trade. We saw a lot of noises come out about Ben Simmons going to Portland for CJ McCollum. So you had a lot of noises, a lot of turmoil that was going on in the Portland Trailblazers before the season started. And as the season has progressed, they've been awful. They're barely in the playoffs. They're barely in the play-in game tournament. They've had a lot of injuries. We do have to talk about that. They've had a lot of injuries. Damian himself has been in and out of the lineup. CJ McCollum has missed a lot of games. Jusuf Nurkic has somehow stayed healthy, which I don't get how. But a lot of players have missed games for the Portland Trailblazers. They just have not been great this year. And if you look at the past history of the Portland Trailblazers, they somehow finish good in the Western Conference. They usually finish between number 4th and number 6 because of the greatness of Damian Lillard. Because he goes out, he goes crazy, he averages 28, and they somehow pull off great wins, and they finish high in the Western Conference. But this year, it just seems like he does not want to be there. He wants to be traded, and I think they should trade him. Please trade him to a great contender so he can go win that ring. But he always propels them to a level which they're not playing at. And they have not been good this year. And the team is just not well constructed. We have to talk about the team. The team's not well constructed. They have players on their team that should be winning the championship now, like the likes of Damian, CJ, Jusuf Nurkic, who should be winning the championship now, who should be competing for a championship now. And they got a lot of rookie players. They got a lot of young players who they can rebuild around. So they have a very mixed players on the team. So you have players that should be challenging, and then you have players that should be where you should be rebuilding. So their team's not well constructed. And I think they should be trading away a lot of players that they have, like the likes of CJ, Dame. They should trade them and go on a rebuild. In my opinion, the Portland Trailblazers should be trading away Damian, CJ, and go on a rebuild. But they have been a disappointment because if you look at the things that they have done in the past, when they have finished 4th to 6th, and Damian Lillard has been in the MVP conversation, they're not living up to that potential. They're not reaching those levels that they were reaching. And they have been a disappointment because they're not playing up to their level. And they're playing awful. On the defense, they're ranked number 26. And the offense, ranked number 14. That's unacceptable. That's not great. Now, we're going to be moving on to the top 2 teams that I believe have been the most disappointing in the NBA this season so far. Coming in at number 2, I got the likes of the Atlanta Hawks, who are in the top position in the Eastern Conference with a record of 18 wins and 25 losses. At home, they have a record under 500, only 9 wins and 11 losses. And away from home, same thing, under 500 with a record of 9 wins and 14 losses. Against their own division, they've been trash, awful, garbage with a record of 4 wins only and 5 losses. Against the Eastern Conference, their own conference that they play in, they've been trash, under 500 again with a record of only 11 wins and 15 losses. On the offensive side of the game, they've roughly averaged 110.7 points per game, while allowing the other team to score roughly 112 points, giving them a difference of negative 1.3. Let's start with the defensive side of the game. When it comes to opposition scoring, they're ranked number 25th out of 30 teams in the NBA. They're at the bottom when it comes to stopping the other team from scoring. They've been absolutely trash when it comes to the defensive side of the game. I know they got a lot of offensive power. They do. They got the likes of Trae Young. They got Lou Will. They got John Collins. But the defense has not been great. They got Nate McCollum, who is a great coach, who is a defensive type of a coach. You would think he would get them fired up and get the dog mentality out of them. But it just seems like Clint Capella is the only one that's playing defense. Everyone else just lets their player just go by easily. No one can defend anyone. And again, if you're having a bad streak, if you're a rookie, you're having a bad start to your career, go play against the Atlanta Hawks. You will take off. You score 30 points easily. They allow anyone can get a bucket on them. They're that bad on the defensive side of the game. But luckily, their offense has actually looked pretty decent. They're ranked number 9 when it comes to the offensive side of the game. When it comes to scoring, they're number 9th. But you expect that with having Trae Young. Trae Young is having a decent season. He's having an all-star type of a season. He's averaging 27, and he looks good out there. We cannot deny that. But everyone else looks tired. Looks tired and not up to their full potential. Last year, they had a great season. We cannot take that away from them. Nate McCollum was the first time head coaching them. Atlanta Hawks, he got to them after he was fired from Indiana. And after he took over, you saw them actually rally behind him. They loved their coach and they wanted to play for him. They were playing on the defense and they were playing offense. They were playing great stuff. They got to the playoffs and they beat the New York Knicks. They beat Philadelphia. And they got to the Eastern Conference. And at the Eastern Conference, they took 2 games off Milwaukee Bucks. And you thought, this is a great rebuilding tool. Nate McCollum's going to be his second year. The team's going to, again, rally around him. They're going to get better. They're going to understand what he's saying. You're going to get players like Trae Young take their games to another level. Like some John Collins, he's going to take another step. Kevin Huerter, he's going to take another step as well. A lot of these young players that they have will take the next step. But in this season, none of them have taken the next step. They look tired. They look gassed. They look like they played too much basketball. All of them look way too tired. Lou Will does not look like the same player who has won the 6th-man player of the year. He's averaging way below his numbers. He's only averaging 6 points where he averages double digits. The likes of Kevin Huerter, who do you expect to average roughly 17, 18 points, is only averaging 12 points on the season. And many other players are not playing up to their full potential. Even Clint Capella, he's playing good on the defensive side of the game, but offensively, again, he's not averaging the points that he was averaging before. You expect Clint Capella to be roughly around 15 points and 15 rebounds. He's only averaging 11 rebounds and 11 points. He is not having a great season up to his own standards that he set. So a lot of the players that they have are not living up to the standards that they set. And the reason I have them number 2 is because I had them higher up. I thought they would finish 4 to 6, again, like they did last year, because I thought they were that great of a team. When it comes to offense, defense, I thought they were a well-rounded team. They're going to pull through and they're going to have a great season, but they just not have lived up to that potential. So that's why I have them ranked number 2 on my list. Now we come to the team that's been the most disappointing in the NBA season so far. And that's easily the Los Angeles Lakers. Currently standing, they're number 8 in the Western Conference, and if the season was supposed to end today, they would be in the play-in tournament. They have a record of 22 wins and 22 losses. They have a home record of 15 wins and 11 losses, but away from home, they've been absolutely trashed with a record of 7 wins only and 11 losses. Against their own division, they have a record of 2 wins and 6 losses. And against the Western Conference, they have a record of 13 wins and 16 losses. On the offensive side of the game, they've averaged roughly 111.5 points per game, while allowing the opposition to score roughly 112.9, giving them a difference of negative 1.4. The defensive side of the game, let's start with that. On the defensive side of the game, they rank roughly 27th. They rank 27th on the defensive side of the game when it comes to opposition scoring. When you watch this team play, they're old, they're not well constructed, and they deserve to be number one on my list. Let's talk about this team, all right? At the start of the season, they got Russell Westbrook. They got Carmelo Anthony. And they still had a lot of players on their team like Anthony Davis, LeBron James. And we thought, you know what, this is not too bad of a team. They got Russell Westbrook, who's still a superstar. You got Anthony Davis, superstar. LeBron James, superstar. And you got a lot of players on the team that were superstars and might even play up to their full potential. And like, oh, this is going to be great. And they should be fighting for a ring. They should be fighting for the Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of the year. But they have not worked out. When you watch the Los Angeles Lakers play, they look old. They don't look great, and they cannot defend for anything. They cannot defend. But the players that they have brought in were never good defenders. Carmelo Anthony was not known for his defense. Russell Westbrook was not known for his defense. And they brought in players that are past their prime, and they want them to be stoppers on the defensive side of the game, and they can't. Anyone, and I mean anyone, can go get a bucket on the Los Angeles Lakers. It does not matter. They play against the Sacramento Kings. They're the worst teams in the NBA. They can go get buckets on them. They play against the likes of Oklahoma. Guess what? That game goes to overtime. They play against the likes of Detroit. And that game goes to 3 overtime because how bad they play defense. Anyone can go get buckets on that team. And they're not a well-constructed team. They do not. How does LeBron James have success in the NBA? He has success when he is surrounded by shooters. How has he made it to so many finals? How has he won 4 championships? He's won it by having great shooters around him. So he can have the lane open and he can control everything. He can go for layups. He can go for easy 2-pointers and he can pass it out and people can hit 3-pointers and they can win games. But this team, you don't have shooters on the team. Russell Westbrook is not a shooter. Carmelo Anthony is not a shooter, although he's getting better. But people around them are not good shooters. So what's happening is everything is just clogged up. You have Dwight Howard, who is not a 3-point shooter, and he's standing in the lane. You have Russell Westbrook, who's not a good shooter. He's in the lane. So you have the paint that is compacted, and LeBron James is not having the same success as he's had before in the NBA. Their team has not been looked good because Anthony Davis, let's talk about Anthony Davis for a second. He is overrated. He is. Anthony Davis has top 5 talent potential. He can be top 5 player ever. But the problem is he can't be healthy. He does not make good decisions. And he is soft. He is soft as butter. My man does not want to go into the paint. He's scared of the paint. Every single time he does anything, he falls on the court and you think he broke something. He broke his leg. His groin is hurt. His hamstring's hurt. Every single time he steps on the floor, he gets hurt. He is soft. He has not played up to his top 5 potential. And you got Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook looks old. Does not have the same jump that he used to have, and he does not look like the same player because the team's not well constructed. How does Russell Westbrook have success in all the teams he's played for? He was the same as LeBron James. It was him in the paint and he had shooters around him. He could just pass the ball out, the lane was open, and he could easily go for his dunks and layups. What's happening now is that the lane's compacted, Russell Westbrook cannot do his stuff, and he does not have the same jump that he used to have. The athleticism that he used to have when he used to dunk out of the gym, he does not have the same stuff. He's missing layups. He's missing easy buckets. So they're not a well-constructed team. Coming into the season, everyone thought the Lakers will be challenging for the NBA trophy. They would be there in 1 to 4 position in the Western Conference. They would have the Western Conference will be a joke for them. They will easily win games. And when LeBron James is out, we thought Russell Westbrook would step in. He will win games when LeBron James can take a rest. But that's not happening now. What's happening is LeBron James is getting hurt. And he's playing way too many minutes. He's averaging the most points in the NBA, which is amazing for 19. He's in his 19th season and he's having the best season possible. But they're still not looking good. They're not. But LeBron James is averaging like 27 points. And guess what's happening? They're still losing games. Anthony Davis, again, not a top 5 player. He should be, and that would make this team great, but he's not. He's not a top 5 player. He's top 10 at max. And then you got the likes of Russell Westbrook, and all looking like the same player. Carmelo Anthony looks old. Everyone on the team looks old, and they can't defend. And that's the problem with this team. Now you got reports coming out that Frank Vogel's on the hot seat. Frank Vogel's on the hot seat. What is he supposed to do with this roster? What is he supposed to do with this roster? The person that should be on the hot seat should be their GM. The GM must be fired for assembling such an awful team. LeBron James has success, as already mentioned, in the NBA by having shooters and no one in the paint. What's this team? They have everyone in the paint and no one outside. They can't shoot, they can't defend, they can't score. I think another problem that they have is they got too many superstar players on the team. The problem with having too many superstar players is that superstar players play with the ball in their hand. They like to have the ball in their hand and they like to get buckets by themselves. What's happening now, there's only one basketball and LeBron James takes it up, he holds it for the whole time and he's the one that has the ball and no one around him moves because they're superstar players. They've always had the ball and they've never needed to move without the ball. So they don't know what to do when LeBron James has the ball. They don't know if he should go to the corner, if he should move around a lot, should we take a defender away from the rim? They do not know what to do. They do not know what to do because they have been superstar players. They're missing out key role players. They need role players who can make shots, who can come in and know their role. The problem with this team is they got too many superstar players that were superstars, are not anymore, are past their prime, and they cannot play role players type of a game. They can't defend. Anyone can go get buckets on them. On the offensive side, they can't shoot. They cannot do anything. They're a disappointment. We thought they'd be challenging for the championship. Rather, they're going to be playing the play-in, and they might even not make it to the playoffs. So they've been a disappointment, and they come number 1 on my list.